Let's begin here. Okay, welcome to Mark chapter 11, and we have been following this as a LENT series, Journey with Jesus. And so, welcome to the inductive Bible study. I'm just going to share the uh, link with the screen with you. Yeah, welcome, Sister Elizabeth. Yeah, welcome, Sister Annie again. Yeah, all right. So, here we come, right? All right, so we are in. So I'm going to just straight away begin. Now, this is the time just to give you a bit of a description of that situation and that place. Now, let me just actually share the map with you. Now, Jerusalem, it seems, was at a high altitude. Okay, and Jesus is coming from. So, just to give you an idea, so this is sea level. So it's from Jericho that Jesus has started his journey moving towards Jerusalem. So Jericho was a place which is below sea level. Okay. So this was actually about 800 feet below sea level. This yellow is the sea level. And Jerusalem was right here, which is around 3,000 feet above sea level. So it was a very long journey that Jesus had to take up, and it's a very steep journey. Yeah, and I think they were able to. They when they were on the Mount of Olive, that's the place they asked for the animal that Jesus could ride, and so from here they began the journey. But I think most of it looks like this was on foot, so it was a very long, difficult journey. Now, usually this was also the place that the pilgrims used to come from this route. Okay, now these pilgrims used to be very excited because they are going into Jerusalem for the Passover. The Passover was the Independence Day of the Jews. Independence from which? From what
Romans.
independence they were celebrating?
Romans.
No, Romans not yet independence. Egypt, from Egypt, they were celebrating Egypt independence, Passover. So now they are under Roman rule. So they are coming for that. They are coming to Jerusalem, and many of them came once a year. So they are coming to a holy place. There's a lot of excitement, and then they are coming at Passover, and the expectation is very high because they are thinking now the Messiah will come and they will give independence even now from the Romans. Yeah. So that's was there. So it's a very high, and then the popular word in the crowd is that Jesus is the one who's the Messiah they are coming to see. So he is the one who's come. So they are very excited. So you see, there's a lot of building up of excitement. Yeah. Now, by the time, let me see if I can share with you another. Okay, so one second. Yeah. So by the time Jesus came to Jerusalem, like Jerusalem city at the time of Jesus was kind of a world-class city because it had this temple, which was like one of the seven wonders. It was a very huge temple. Okay. And the Gentile court, there were three sections to the temple. What were the three sections? Anyone?
Inner side,
Yeah.
outer.
Yeah, no, there was the Holy of Holies, then the Holy Middle Court for the priests, and then there was the Gentile court. Now, the Gentile court alone was 3,000, I think, five. It was a size of 5 football fields in length. Can you imagine the 5 football fields? And in breadth, it was around 3.5, 3.5 football fields. So it was a very big place, very, very massive place, the temple. Okay, so Jesus comes to this Mount of Olives, which comes between Bethpage and Bethany, and this is the place he's asked for the animal to ride. So Bethany basically means house of sorrow. Bethpage means unripe fruit, and so it is from this place that Jesus is starting his journey. And Jerusalem was had some canals also and water system. So it was a very good city. It was no longer just a military base. It was now a very developed city. Okay. Yeah, this was a festive occasion. People are coming from different places. There's excitement. People are expecting Messiah to come. So that's this. Okay, now let's go dive into the scripture. 1 second. All right. Okay, so as they approach as they approach Jerusalem, okay, what is the order? Sorry, yeah, what is the order Jesus gives to them from the Mount of Olives? What is the order Jesus? What is the order he gives to his disciples? Anyone?
To
Right in
go
the
to the
beginning.
village and untie the colt and bring it.
Correct. Yeah. So go to the village ahead of you and you'll find a colt and come. Okay. Now, colt basically means a young one of a horse. And usually what they did was that holy people or Jewish people, when they used to start a holy journey, there was a custom that they will take an animal that was not ridden, that was no other person had rode. So it was some kind of a this belief that you are starting a holy journey. But there was also one more theory that it seems that the king, when a king would take a horse or a donkey, so it would be again an animal that nobody had rode. So that sort of pretty symbolic, yeah. So now, can you tell me, was this? We have seen pictures of a donkey, but we have also seen here it is saying colt. So which animal did Jesus actually ride? Some gospel accounts are saying donkey, some gospel accounts are saying colt. Matthew says donkey and colt. So what is happening here? Anyone?
Cold rice 6%.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any explanation? Because Matthew is written donkey and a colt, and Mark writes colt. Luke also writes colts. John mentions a young colt. That means a young donkey, something like that. Okay. Now
Because
let me.
he's the king. Means as per Jesus knows he is the son of God. So
Yeah.
he wanted to that colt.
Okay. So let me just solve this problem. What has happened is it's supposed to be now. For example, Matthew, Mark, and Luke came to my house yesterday. Suppose Matthew, Mark, Luke came to my house yesterday, and I am telling you that Luke was in my house yesterday. So am I lying?
No.
Am I lying if I just say Luke is in my was in my house yesterday? No. I am only focusing on Luke because of some conversation, or maybe it's just my priorities Luke in that conversation. So too, it is probably the case that Jesus had both animals, okay, with him, which was a donkey and a colt. Okay. Now, because it was this steep climb up to Jerusalem, maybe for some part he has ridden a donkey, he rode a donkey, and then there was also just before entering Jerusalem, he took colt. Okay, and gospel writers have, according to their design, they have a purpose. They have focused on, but Matthew focused on donkey because he wanted to show from Zachariah, here comes your savior on a donkey and a colt. So he mentions donkey. John mentions donkey, but Matthew, Mark, and Luke focus on a colt. But because colt is what he rode. But the important thing is not that. The important thing is that he's coming as the Messiah. Almost all of them want to show that he's the king, the Messiah that was coming, and how. Okay, so that's something to just keep in mind. Yeah, instead of just getting stuck with the controversy, but that I'm just explaining this to you right now. Let's go ahead. How did the people greet him? What was the reaction of people when they greeted him? Now, just to make it very clear, there was one more expectation that Jesus should come on a horseback as somebody who's like the uh, savior who's the political the king who will come and rescue. So they wanted him to come in style and pomp and with military might, but instead of that he takes a donkey or a colt, so it's an animal of peace, it's an animal that is used in agriculture, not taken to war. So he doesn't uh, fulfill the expectation of people. That's all. No, so just to ask a reflection question, do you think what people think about us or what people expect of us affects us a lot? Our thinking, our decision, our actions. Do you think people's expectation influences us a lot?
Yes, being a Christian, they think that you're a person set apart from the rest.
Okay, being a Christian, yeah, but even Christian people have expectations about from each other. Yeah, so that's how. So so expectations. That's a it's a very powerful force. No, expectations. What people want me to do, what they expect of me. Is that a pressure today? Do you think?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Correct. Correct. So, what are some of the unhealthy examples of such pressures that we see affects people in a negative way? Society expectations, people's expectations. In what way does it affect people in a very negative way? Anyone?
They expect a higher standard from us,
Okay.
and
Yeah. All right. So one of the things, you must have seen this Anant Ambani wedding, wedding that took place very,
pre-wedding.
yeah, it was a pre-wedding, huh? Yeah, okay. So basically, it was so lavish, and people were discussing on some WhatsApp group about, what is the need to spend so much money and all of that. So, but they're the Ambanis, they want to live up to that name. But how are they different even from certain Christian weddings when it's all about trying to show people that we are rich and we can do well and all that and we can compete? So, don't you think that also happens sometimes on people's, the unhealthy expectation? We want to show to people that we are just as rich or great, where so there's a lavish, endless spending of money sometimes at weddings. Just an example, there are other areas in which also people are influenced by expectations, standards, and they go according to that, right? All right, now let's move ahead. All right, okay. Now, how do the people greet Jesus when he comes? How do they welcome him?
Hosanna,
Yeah,
blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord.
yeah. So they come saying, Hosanna, Hosanna. Now, just a small detail. So when Jesus comes, he tells for that animal to be brought, colt to be brought. Now, this is probably because nobody objects, because he was already known, popular, and he says, Lord is there. People just responded. So his stories and his glory has already reached people's ears. So that's just there. Okay. So anyway, yes, they cry out saying Hosanna. Okay. Now, anything any information that you know from this about this way of welcoming, what does this mean? They're spreading their cloaks, they're waving branches, they're saying Hosanna. What does it mean? What do you know? Because we have seen these passages year after year, so you must be knowing something about it. Anyone?
Uh, it is it is the way they welcome a king. In the Middle East, they do that. They even to this day in the villages they cut off the branches when royalty passes by, and they lay it out on the roads for the king to pass by.
Okay, they cut off the branches. Yeah, okay, they were, yes, welcoming a king. Yes, very true. I think when Jehu was crowned as king and he was welcomed also, he was welcomed in a similar fashion. So, God was fed up with Ahab, and so he told Elisha to, Elisha was told to anoint Jehu, and so when Jehu came, his followers also welcomed. So it was like a new king coming. So it was very symbolic that now a new reign is coming, a new king. So people were full of their expectations that this is what Jesus should be doing. Yeah. So it's, I mean, this is Jesus, our new King and Messiah. Now, the word Hosanna, what does it mean? Anyone knows?
Save us.
Correct, correct. The word Hosanna means save us. Yeah. So it's basically again a greeting. Now, this is basically something that's taken from Psalm 118, 25, 26, this greeting. But it also is basically the word Hosanna is symbolic because they are saying Jesus save us. You know, we are under the Roman rule, so that's what it means. And though the palm leaves are not mentioned there, we know from other gospel account, palm leaves was also a symbol of the Maccabean revolt, an uprising that had come up earlier before Jesus' time, and they had ruled Israel. So they had rebelled against the Romans. So it was a very powerful symbol that they were. The people were showing clear signs that now the Roman rule is over, our Messiah has come. So that's what it looks like. Okay. Now, what does Jesus do after he's welcomed in such grand way, pompous way? People are laying his. What does he do after that? Anyone? Sister Annie, Mrs. Marcus, Mrs. Jacob? Yeah, anyone? Yeah.
Jesus went into the temple.
Huh?
Jesus went into the temple.
He went into the he went into the temple. Hello, Sister Mamta has joined. Okay, welcome, Sister Mamta. Yeah, okay, I think your audio is still connected. All right. Okay, so he goes to the temple, and what does he do there? He goes to the temple. Does he start giving a lecture? Does he take some action? Anyone?
What he doesn't do is get carried away by the crowd.
Correct. That's a good answer. He doesn't get carried away. Very true. Anything else? Yeah. So that's a very good thing. That's exactly where he could have got carried away by coming on a horseback also, because that was the expectation. But he doesn't do that. Now this is actually called an anti-climax because the build-up is so much, the excitement is in the air. Just while entering Jerusalem, everybody's waiting for him. People know he's coming. They're ready for him. And as he enters, they start crying, Hosanna, Hosanna. They lay their cloaks, they start waving those branches. Save us, no, blessed is he who comes in the name of the kingdom of our father David. So very symbolic language. So now he's that promised son of David who will restore the kingdom. So so lots of this, yeah. But Jesus completely drops that. Like there's an anticlimax, there is nothing, no build up taking place. He just goes to the temple, sees that place, and then he returns back to Bethany. Now, why do you think he's just sees the temple? Anyone? Why do you think he does that? He just sees the temple and goes back. Just looks around. What is he doing? Yeah. Hello, welcome, Sister Smita, Sister Mamta. Yeah, welcome. Anyone? What is he doing here? What is he looking at? He's seeing what is happening inside the temple. He just wants to have a look. So he's kind of doing a survey. He's looking at things, how they are, and he sees everything. Now, next day, he's going to take action. Now, so it's very, very important here to see that the Son of God also comes and just doesn't start doing things
Action.
randomly, action, like reckless action. He comes and sees. It's so important. Why do you think it's so important to conduct a survey before you take action, or try to understand the situation before you take any action, before you think about doing something? Yeah. Do you think it's important first when you start some project into doing something, it's good to study, okay, the place, the situation? Yeah. So let me just rush through this. Yeah. Anybody wanting to say something quickly?
You're looking at the lay of the land.
Huh?
The lay of the land. You're looking
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the
the
lay.
lay of the land. Yeah. Now there is a fulfillment of a
Always,
prophet. Yeah.
always good not to be too impulsive in our actions because they're
Yeah, yeah,
not
correct. It's
profitable
not to be
actually.
impulsive. Yeah. Now, this is also fulfillment of the prophecy in Malachi where it says he will suddenly come into the temple. Yeah. So there is a prophecy in Malachi, the 3:1 that says sovereign Lord will suddenly come into the temple. So he suddenly comes, he doesn't do anything. He just looks around and he goes back. So one of the thing I would say that, since I worked in during the COVID time on the roads, most of the people would just go and emotionally go and help people who are on the streets. They will give them bags of rice and all of that. And what those people used to do is they will go and sell it back to the shop and they will take money from the shopkeeper, those people. So, and when I worked with the NGOs, I saw that the NGOs always conducted survey. They will see the place, study the place, and only then they will act. They will not and many times they would completely ignore the places in the city because they knew help will reach anyhow. During the lockdown, I'm talking about. So studying, understanding is very, very important. That is exactly what we see. Jesus comes, surveys a place, and then he goes back. Now, often the pilgrims would retreat to Bethany because Bethany was downhill. Jerusalem was at an altitude. It used to be very cold there. So when they would go for the Passover, they would go sleep back in Bethany. And Bethany was also the place where who stayed in Bethany? Who stayed in Bethany?
Lazarus and family.
Yeah, correct. Lazarus stayed in Bethany.
Mary,
So,
Martha.
yeah, so that's the place he's gone. That was his friend's house. So he'd go and halt there, right? All right. So now, next day, what happens when they are going back to uh, Jerusalem? What happens on the way? What
He's
happens?
hungry.
Yeah,
Jesus
quickly.
is hungry and he sees a fig tree and goes to it,
Yeah,
expecting some fruit from it.
yeah. They are hungry, and Jesus is hungry, and he goes to that thing, and the fig tree he sees on the way and he sees it, okay, but it says that he found nothing but leaves because it was not the season for figs. So how do you explain that? It was not time for fruit. Figs were not grown, but he goes and he expects food. So but it's not there because a tree cannot produce fruit if it's not the season, but Jesus expects it and he curses it also. Anyone? Any explanation to that? Yeah. Okay. Yes, Sister Smita, Sister Mamta, Sister Elizabeth, Annie, Mrs. Marcus, Mrs. Jacob. Yeah. So what used to happen is the the blooming of the fruit used to come in May. Okay, that's when the figs used to come, and this was somewhere around April, it seems. March, the buds used to appear. Now, and in April, April, the leaves were used to come in full green. So the leaves were and these buds also were like small mini fruits that people could eat on the way because this was on the road, and it was easy, so people would pluck and eat. The green leaves would actually be a guarantee that now this tree has got small buds which you can pluck and eat on the way, although the fruit is not come. So Jesus was right in going and expecting that there would be some fruit there, those buds to eat, edible, but it's not there. So he curses it. This is perhaps the only time that he curses the tree. Okay, now let's please remember this. We'll come back to this. Okay, and he says, "May no fruit ever be come from you again." Now, what he's doing, it's interesting to understand, is he's not just making the tree barren. He's actually declaring the tree to the permanent state of what it is. That if you're not fruit, you don't have fruit, so you will be fruitful. So he just declares that. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah. All right. Now, so what happens on then when he enters the temple? What does he do? Jesus Christ. What does
It's
he
like
do?
a marketplace where there's a lot of trade, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
upsets it.
yeah. It's a marketplace. Yeah, correct. Anything else? Any other information you know? This is a very popular passage. We all know. We've heard it so many times. Come on, give me some information about this.
My house will be called a house of prayer, but you're
Yeah.
made a den of robbers.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a sanctified place, but
Right.
it's defiled.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else?
I think we have
Yeah.
to come back to that initial picture that you talked about, the court of the Gentiles,
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
where there was so much of trade happening that no Gentile who wanted to seek God could also
Hmm.
probably go in. So they'd actually messed up the purpose of the temple using the Gentile courts for that.
Correct.
I
Correct.
think
Oh.
so.
Okay, anyone else? Anything you know about this passage? This is an important passage, a traditional passage. We visit it, we preach, we hear about this sermons, we study it. Any other information you know? Anyone? Yeah.
It's
So,
also a place where they had the sacrificial doves, because if they were not wealthy, instead of sacrificing a lamb, they'd be sacrificing doves. If they're like when Jesus was taken
yeah,
up, was
yeah, yeah.
his parents had taken up the doves.
Right, right. So there were other animals also, but Mark, for whatever reason, has focused on doves. Yeah, doves were for the poor people. Yeah. Okay, now this is supposed to be something that happened in the corner of a temple. It was not a big major event as we imagine it to be, because there were Roman soldiers on guard outside the temple, and there was a tower from where they could see. So it was not such a big, but then it was quite symbolic and powerful what Jesus did. So it is a lot of meaning. Now, why were there money changers? Were there money changers? Anyone knows?
And because the temple currency was different, I think, from the
Correct. Yeah.
Roman currency outside.
Yeah, so most of the people who were like many of the pilgrims who would come, they would some would be Gentiles, some would be Jews, Hellenistic Jews coming from Roman parts. They had
Greece.
Roman coins, so they had to buy those animals, or they had to put some money in the temple. Then they would need the Jewish currency, the currency of the Jewish coins. Yeah, so which was Jewish and Tyrian coins. Yeah. So what these money lenders used to do, the exchange rate used to be very high. So they were really cheating people there. What was why were there animals and birds being sold there? Any idea?
Time of the Passover, so they needed animal sacrifices.
Okay, right. Anyone else? Okay. So normally what would happen is people who used to come from far away, by the time they bring an animal or a bird there, the bird it would die. The journey used to be so long, or it used to become sick, and then it was not worthy for sacrifice. So because of that, these stalls were there. Now originally the stalls were outside the temple, but they had come inside the temple. You know why? Because the priest uh, Annas was the Annas was the high priest, and Caiaphas was his son-in-law. So it was a monopoly of those priests that you have to buy from our stalls, and they would reject a sacrifice that was not brought from their stalls. So you understand how how things had really become so corrupt. So everything was about business, and they had occupied. Imagine being outside the temple, shifting inside, and then occupying the Gentile court. And then he says one more thing. Do you know what this is? Would not allow anyone to carry merchandise. So there used to be so much noise, animals selling, and then this was happening. Would not Jesus did not allow anyone to carry merchandise there. Anyone knows what that is? Anyone? Yeah. So yeah, go on.
Probably anything that people would want to take back as mementos or.
Yeah, see, one of the things that would happen is because the temple was so big, as I said, it was 5 football stadiums long and around 3.5 football stadiums in breadth. So this is not just not the whole temple. I'm just talking about the Gentile court. It was very big. Okay, what and you know the Jews hated Gentiles. Okay, and so they even looked down upon their place of worship that was rightfully theirs. So you see, they had such disdain and they were misusing that place that was meant for worship because of their business or whatever. And people used to carry goods from the temple was being used as a shortcut. Are you understanding? People, instead of going around the temple, people used to pass from one side of the temple. Like it was like a walkway. People used to carry goods from you see. So it was so irrelevant. Imagine people are sitting in the church and somebody just passes from one door of the church to the other right across because he wants to travel that side. So that is what was happening. Okay, so he stopped people from going that way. So that's what he tried to do. And then he says, is it my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of robbers? Yeah. Now who's he referring to as robbers? Who are the robbers here?
Gentile.
Gentiles.
No, the
Who are the
Roman. As you mentioned, there is that hierarchy where the money is directed towards the
yeah.
private.
Yeah, it is true that there was a nexus between the Romans also. The Romans also used to get money from the temple. They were very interested the business goes well. And so it was all about money. It had become commercialized. Okay, the whole thing had become commercialized. Okay. Now, now let me ask you an interesting question. And so when Jesus sees this, he's really angry. He said now he comes out and he says, the zeal for the house of the Lord shall come. My house will be called a house of prayer for all the nations. And he starts whipping things around. Okay, that's what he does, right? So that's before he's restrained by the disciples or that or people around. That's all. Now let me ask you something. What was the original purpose of the temple?
Okay.
What was the original purpose of the temple?
Worship God, sacrifice.
Yeah, worship God, sacrifice, prayer. Yeah. And the Jews were meant to be a blessing to the Gentiles, which was through the Jews. God wanted to bless the whole world. You see, that was the plan. But then the good Jews thought that the Messiah, I mean, the righteous Jews had made a tradition that the Messiah will come and get the Gentiles, get the temple rid of all the Gentiles. In fact, they did not want Gentiles. But here is Jesus whipping the place to make a place for the Gentiles. Okay. Now, can you identify? Now, let's me see how if you can make that connection. Do you do you think there's a connection between the fig tree and the temple? Anyone?
The fig tree was not bearing fruit.
Okay.
So the temple, in the same way, was not serving its purpose of
Yeah, correct. Yeah, very good, very good. So the temple also was not bearing fruit. You understand? Very good. Anything else? Why was Jesus drawn to the fig tree?
He was hungry. So people who needed um, God had to
Okay,
come to the
but
temple.
why? There could have been other fig trees, or they could have. What was this fig tree attract took Jesus's attention?
The poor tree, it was not in season.
No, no, no. Anyone else? Anyone else? Sister Smita, Sister Mamta, Sister Annie, Mrs. Marcus, Mrs. Jacob. Anyone? Why this particular fig tree that Jesus was drawn to?
Because it was full green and it was deceiving people by its
Yeah,
appearance.
excellent, Sister Smita. Superb. It was full of green leaves. It looked like it was lush green. It gave the impression that it had fruit from the distance.
Yes.
When you go near, there was no fruit. How is that similar to the temple?
The temple is also, it is understood that it is a place of worship.
Correct.
And people were trying to come in to worship, but then sort of dirty business was going in.
Right. So there were thousands of sacrifices that used to happen. I think according to one account, some 265 or 35,000 animals were killed in one day. And so you can imagine how much business it was in one day. So many animals were killed. So it was outwardly it was looking everything is going very well, ritualistic, all the priests and everything, but there was no fruit. Correct. That's how. How is if Jesus were to look at our life today, would it also be like that? Outwardly, we look like Christians, we talk like Christians, we walk like Christians, we go to church, we give the appearance that we are Christians, we are disciples of Christ, but there is no fruit in our lives. Yeah. And this is something we should reflect upon. Am I fruitful? Because if we look at things, outwardly things, like for example, outwardly things we could look at, I have a house, I have money, I have wealth, I have children, grandchildren, or whatever. I've got everything going well. This is just like what the Gentiles also were thinking. But the fruit is according to the gardener, according to the one who wants it. Not the tree cannot decide this fruit. No? So it's something. Is my life fruitful in the eyes of the Lord? It's a very, very important question for us to reflect upon. Yeah. So because what this is basically, it's a sin of hypocrisy. Appearance is something, but the reality is something else. Yeah. It's very, very important to reflect on that. All right. So so the chief priests and the teachers of the law saw that, and so okay, got it, thank you, I got that message. The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard that this and began looking for a way to kill him, and so they feared. Now they were very angry. Why were they angry? Why did they want to kill him? Because why did they want to kill him straight away? Anyone? Yeah, because they did not want. What was their main problem with Jesus? Because he's going to replace them, correct? The people are getting drawn to him, yeah, and he is becoming more popular than them, jealousy, correct, and Jesus was actually bringing the condemnation of the Lord, when he says, that was declaring that this temple is over, and now he is the new temple, because people went to the temple for what? They went for prayers, for worship, for healing, for all of that. But Jesus is offering that free on the streets. So now the old is gone and the new has come. So he's declaring that in a way is coming, and is actually saying this old order is not now no more, here I am. So that's the kind of declaration he's doing, and it's also in line with what he had predicted in the previous chapter. He's going to die, and now he will live again. So he's going to he's basically hinting towards that. And here we see they want to kill him, and now it is said that this particular action about when he attacks their finances, they said this guy has to go. You understand?
Calling them out for their behavior. He calls at one stage, he called them like whitewashed tombs.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But you see, here it's very interesting to see that this killing is associated with him. For example, you can say, "Tell me whatever you want," but the moment you attack my business or you attack my status, they did not want to lose their status and their business, their entire nexus that was there. This guy has to go, otherwise he's not going to he's going to destroy our complete system. So you see, this is how it was. Yeah. So anyway, when evening came, Jesus went back to the city. In the morning again, next day, they see what has happened to the fig tree. It has withered. Yeah, it has completely withered. Okay. Fig tree was cursed. Now what does Jesus teach his disciples from there? What is he telling the disciples? What is he teaching them from that? What does he tell them?
Our life should be fruitful.
That you should have?
Our life should be fruitful.
Fruitful. Excellent. Great point. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
That it's better not to exist than than have a deceptive.
Better not to
exist.
Insist.
Exist.
Exist. Okay.
Than to be deceiving to others.
Okay, that's a radical statement. Anyone else? Hi, brother Sandesh. Yeah. What is he teaching here? Mary is also joined here. Anyone? Yeah, Sister Anne. Yeah. Go ahead.
Faith. About faith.
Yeah. So here he's telling them about faith. Okay, he's talking to them about faith. If you have faith, and this entire phrase about go through yourself. If you tell this mountain, yeah. So and this is basically he's talking about basically that phrase is common in the language to say that even impossible things can be done. Yeah, and exactly as it was told by Mrs. Marcus, he's telling that you also have to be fruitful. You see, the arrangement of the passages is with a plan, yeah? The fig tree, the temple, and your life. So you also have to be fruitful. So how do you remove those and how can you be fruitful is trusting God to remove those mountains. Yeah, that is blocking your life from being fruitful. Yeah, and of course he talks about prayer and forgiveness. That's very interesting. One of the commentators written that forgiveness basically means that Jesus is not here actually here to destroy the temple. He's just saying in the end he's establishing a new order, but no matter, he says that if anybody holds anything against you, you have to forgive them. And we see that on the cross also he forgives the people who are persecuting, who are cursing him, right? So I disagree with what you're doing, but it's not that I hate you, I forgive you. That's the heart of the Savior. Okay. Now, can you tell me, was the animals and birds being sold in the temple, was it necessary? Was the sale of animals and birds, was it necessary for the temple? Anyone?
I would think it was.
Correct, it was, because you are
Tradition.
required to present a sacrifice, right, for anything. So it was a necessity, correct? Was the money lenders a necessity? The money changers, were they necessary for the
Yes,
temple?
yes, they were also necessary because people coming from different parts. No?
Excellent, yeah. So what went wrong? If they were necessary, why did Jesus attack them? Or why did he take that action?
They made
Using
religion.
the power.
Huh?
They were misusing the power. They were cheating the people.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, anyone else wants to answer? Yeah.
The
What
focus
was
was more on trade.
correct? What was necessary had replaced what was central. Are you understanding? It was no longer a place of worship and prayer. It had become a place of business. You understand? What it was necessary, but it had suddenly taken the center stage. It was occupying the Gentile court. It was all about business. It had become corrupt. Do you think in our daily lives also, the things that are necessary take the center stage and they knock God off the center? That God no longer remains the focus of our lives. That this temple that we are also gets corrupted because we pay too much attention to those things that are necessary, but we make an idolatry out of them. We let those things creep up to so much extent that they even take the place of God also in our lives. And what could be those things? Any idea? What are some of the reasons that people say they are unable to have their quiet time? They can't spend time with God anymore, or they are not able to focus on God these days because they are after necessary things. What are those necessary things?
The
Anybody?
busyness of life, status, money, ambition,
Okay.
power.
Okay. Any other answer?
Social media.
Social media. Yeah. Social media and all. Yeah. I could just say most people that I know miss their quiet time because they are saying I'm getting late for work. I have to rush in the morning. Going to work is necessary.
Yes.
It's necessary. But if it starts taking a toll on your time with the Lord, that the temple that you are, you no longer actually worship the Lord, you no longer actually pray, and what is necessary takes center stage. What has happened? What has happened to the temple?
Sidelined.
Yeah, it has become corrupt. Yeah. So it's very important to pay attention to our lives in this season of Lent because we don't become smugglers. We don't go and start stealing or murder, but we have valid reasons to not pay attention to the Lord. You understand? We justify things to come in the way of our Lord. If caring for children, is that necessary? Caring for your family, is that necessary? It's necessary, but should it take center stage that you are always concerned about them, but you're not concerned about your relationship with the Lord? Yeah. So think about what is necessary has has become so unhealthy that it has come from outside, it has come inside now, and it has taken the center stage of it is creeping up like a moss. It's growing and it's completely covering your life. It's very important. Lent is a time for us to say no. I want to remove this thing. Allow the Lord to cleanse our heart, to whip things away. Repent. Lord, take this away. I'm so sorry, Lord. that I have really abused and misused what's necessary. Yeah, correct. Anyway, the authority of Jesus questioned. Yeah, and so that's what he's telling the disciples. And how do you? But what do you do? What do you do? I have to work, right? I have children to care for. I have to do this and that. These seems like mountain to me. I'm so. I was talking to somebody earlier. That person was saying that I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I don't have time to pray, read the Bible. What do you do when the problems seem so huge like a mountain? You trust God to remove them. You say, Lord, please change me. Please change my heart. Give me the grace to say no. Help me to remove these things that have taken up my life so much. They've eaten away my time with you. And the Lord will do that. So cry out to the Lord. And this is the season of crying out to the Lord. Lord, you remove this mountain. I don't know how to do it. I cannot do it on myself. You can do it. And the Lord will make room. And the Lord will clear those things that are keeping us from being fruitful, that are keeping us from our time with the Lord. Yeah, that's all. So it also applies to those who want to serve the Lord. I don't have time. I don't have the Lord will make time. Okay. Okay. Now let's go. I think this is probably the last year passage. They arrived in Jerusalem, and so the religious leaders come and they say, "By what authority are you doing these things? Come on!" They surround him, and Jesus says, they are worried because it's not about his authority. His question is about their authority. What will happen to us if you start taking charge of the temple? Yeah. So what is Jesus's answer to them? When they question Jesus, what is Jesus' answer to them? Anyone?
Questions them.
Huh?
He questions them
He
about John's,
questions
about
them, yeah.
the,
So he correctly he traps them, like he also questions them nicely. So they cannot say what will happen if they say yes, John's baptism was from God. Then the people will ask them, then why did you not believe him? And if they say no, then the people will get angry because everybody believed that John was from the Lord. So they get in this very peculiar situation, and so they says we don't know. So Jesus says, neither will I tell you. Okay, and that's also they must have known that Jesus is from the Lord. He had authority, but they want to harden their heart because they wanted to protect their authority. So that's what we know. Okay, now let's come to some reflection. Okay, right now if we go back to the some questions I want to just ask you. Now the Jewish temple, the Jerusalem temple, yeah, was not just a place of worship, but it was also a place of power. Why was it a place of power? Because who was present there? It was the Jewish priest, the high priest, uh, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and also the scribes were there. The Romans were there. Also, they were in the background, but they were there. So it was like a center of power. It seems that even some of the rebels used to enter that temple and have their meetings. It was a center of power. But what had happened is that these people who were making money, business and all that, this temple was meant to serve God and His people. But they had started abusing that. They had started oppressing the people. That it had deviated from their objective. Right now, can you tell me what are certain structures of power today? What are certain structures of service today? That's the question. What are the structures of service that are originally built to serve people, and they have become corrupt? Power and service, yeah. What are certain structures of power or certain structures that are meant to help people, but they have become corrupt, they have become commercialized? Anyone? So definitely there are churches. Some churches have also done that. Maybe they have given more importance to tradition or certain things, and we can criticize the churches. It's fine. I'm not saying no. That's definitely true, and we can say many things easily. But I want to expand your thinking. Besides churches, what are certain other structures in today's society that are actually places of power or that are meant to actually help people, but they have started oppressing people or they have become uh, corrupt or greedy? Anyone?
Many of our government
Many
departments
of
are the same
our government departments. Yes, very true.
structures. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, very true. Very. Anything else in our society that have become corrupt that were meant to serve people, help people? Anyone?
Law enforcers.
Hierarchy in churches, yeah, that's fine. Absolutely, some church leaders, somebody has put it on the chat. It's all about protecting their position in the church and serving people. They do that. It's definitely there. We discuss about churches very easily. With besides churches, what are other structures? So in government departments, what else?
The courts and the law enforcers, they also.
Excellent. Yeah, courts, very true. Courts have become places of abuse and power, yes, because sometimes what has happened is unjust decisions are taken, or sometimes, you must have heard also that certain judges are offered certain lucrative political careers and they take decisions that are not right, and then certain it seems certain benches are also fixed, even in the greatest of court, and that has also happened. What else? So courts can be corrupt. Very true. Good observation. Any other institution?
Police.
Huh? Police, yes.
Police.
Excellent. Police can be corrupt, yes. Police can be corrupt. They can be taking bribes. They refuse to lodge FIR. They can oppress people.
Education,
Yeah.
education institutes
Yes.
where you get
Excellent.
donation,
Education, yes, can be commercialized. What else? Yes. Look at,
donations
Corporate
and get a seat.
hospitals.
pardon?
Corporate hospitals.
Corporate hospital, yes, very true, very good. In fact, some of the corporate hospitals, they actually get their license saying that we are here to serve the poor, and they will build one floor or one department, one section for the poor people, and the rest of the whole building will be for rich. So it's so bad, yeah. So hospitals, yeah. So what about anything else? Any other institution? Schools,
Yes, for a seat, you have to pay a donation to get admission.
yeah, schools, colleges, all of this. Okay, now what would be a Christ-like response to such structures of corruption power? Will you go with a whip and start doing that? No, but what would be a Christ-like response? How do you, because Jesus did not really destroy the temple that time. He didn't do that. He just protested. He tried to restore order. He said this is wrong. He raised his voice. So what would be? He was trying to restore it back to its purpose. Yeah. What can we do to restore such institutions that are meant to shelter people, help people? Anything? More believers should be in public office. Excellent answer, Sister Anne. Very good, Sister Anne. Excellent answer. Most believers should be in public. More believers should be IS officers, IPS. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else? How can we lodge a protest? What can we do? I'm sorry I'm taking time, but this is very important. Hardly do we discuss on such subjects. Yeah. Anyone?
I think
Brother Sandesh?
also
Yeah.
we start on grassroots, educating the youngsters, so they are aware what is right, what is wrong.
Yeah, but the challenge is here too for structures, no? Changing these structures that have become corrupt.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people, they're already crushed under it. What are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah. So anyone else quickly? Come on.
Actually, we can do only as a community, you know.
As a community, yeah. Okay. So what we can do is we can also go into we can become like the story of how Baba Sahib Ambedkar, he went up and he wrote the constitution, he liberated the oppressed people. So, somebody had said even going into high places, and politics and all can be a lampstand to influence it, not for corruption and power. That's not our intention, to serve people. One Ambedkar really impacted so much, and it's just like Esther in the story, who was Mordecai told her, and then she was able to influence and help her people. So many people who were the Jews would be killed. So high places are very important. Journalism can be a place from where we can write about things that are wrong. Lawyers, getting into the courts of justice and being truthful and sincere and helping people out. So these are very important, right? Now, please remember. So there are there are different places where we can actually, of course, now exercising our vote is also very important in these times, that we vote for justice, for democracy, for change. Yeah. Now, what's important is, let me tell you also, then joining a protest movement for justice is very important. Connecting with, if parents are going up to the school and saying this is wrong, you are charging too much money, you must be part. You must not say, oh no, this is what you, as Christ-like response is to be there and cry out on behalf of the oppressed. So that's what is important. Yeah. Now, let me tell you, there are two structures here that we are seeing in this passage. Okay, one is the corrupt structure, and the other is what? There are two structures we are seeing. Two structures. One is a corrupt structure, and the other is the structure of. Okay, there's a temple of corruption, and what is the other temple? The temple of
Righteousness.
worship, yeah, of prayer, right? So, similarly, in this world, there are two systems. One is about just making money, power, seeking our own prosperity, but the other is to help people, to liberate people. Yeah, those authorities wanted to control and oppress people with their power, but Jesus wanted to use his power, his authority to liberate people. Now, let me ask you, what kind of system are you part of, are we part of? Are we just there strengthening a structure that's about the rich becoming richer and keeping more poor oppressed, or are we part of liberating people? Today, so many Christians want their kids to go abroad. How many Christians want their kids to get into civil services, IS, and bring about a change? So it's very, very important to ask what kind of a person I am. What is my dream? When God's heart breaks for all people who are who are being oppressed of this corrupt structures, and we got to be people who give ourselves. So Christianity is, Jesus is for everyone. Yeah, he's not just for Christians, right? So our life, salt and light, it means about giving ourselves, sacrificing ourselves. We can be much more than what we are today. Yeah, so that's the challenge for us to think about this, and we'll definitely discuss. So thank you so much. God bless you. And and that's also what true fasting is about, right? True fasting is about justice, about setting